Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Steven.
And this is Scooby. Welcome to yet another episode of The Feedback, where Steven and I present a song to each other, and by extension to all of you, we discuss the song, talk about its merits, and even things that we don't really like about it, which doesn't come up that often because we're both very accepting people. And
It's true.
we also go off on tangents about wherever our minds go from said song. Yeah, thinking about it, I don't think we've ever had a song where we were just like, I didn't like that, or even like there were some parts about that I didn't like. Like even that is too far for us. It hasn't happened yet. It's gotta happen eventually, right?
I was gonna say I definitely feel like it will happen at some point. There was actually I've been going through a few times now where I was like, I've heard this song once. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and bring it to the table and almost play it as like a blind listen and just see what happens. Or there's a couple of albums that recently come out from a few artists that I've always held in high acclaim, and I haven't listened to all of their songs on their new album yet, but there's a couple of singles coming. So I was like, maybe I could just bring a single to the thing and be like, hey, I just heard this came out and I'm really excited to listen. You want to listen together? But then I was
Okay,
like,
all right.
if it's terrible, what are we going to do then?
Then we'll do our normal thing, which is like, well, it wasn't my favorite, but here's what I did like about it.
That's
'Cause
true.
that's how we roll.
That's true. We are very much just like, you know what? I'm not gonna rain on your parade.
That's right. Uh, as per our new-ish tradition, it's not super new at this point, but I do have three beverages tonight. You actually asked before we started. It's more like two and a half because I'm drinking a Heineken, which is half gone already, and then I also have a glass of Turkey Hill peach iced tea, Pennsylvania's finest tea, sure I guess, and some water.
No, I
Hooray!
would uh, I would agree that Turkey Hill is one of the supreme beverage makers, especially in that Pennsylvania region. But I would argue that their orange is better.
I didn't see orange, but
Okay.
I also picked up, I believe, mango lemonade and strawberry
Ooh,
kiwi lemonade, neither of which I've broken into yet. So,
both of those
hanging on
sound
to those.
they both sound great. I've restrained myself, and I have not opened my beverages except for my water, but I do have three as well.
Hell yeah! What have you got? And what's the song?
I've got a cherry coke as well. That's not the song, although it could have been, right? Is that what the? I don't know. Maybe that's just the lyric. Sipping cherry cola. That's what it is.
Yeah, the
Ooh,
Savage
won't
Garden.
you? Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you know what? I was a big fan of those boardwalk drinks. I still have a few left. I'm gonna crack it open right now, but I got a blue slushy.
nice.
Yeah, 5%er on the blue slushy from. I found out that boardwalk is made by my favorite cider company. I might have talked about this last time too, but it's made by Down East Cider,
You
and they
have
also.
mentioned you have mentioned that before. Yes.
I was gonna say maybe I'm trying to get a sponsor from them, but they are very good. They make good cider as well. I like their drinks, but yeah. So that's what I'm drinking on today. I'm glad you're sipping on some drinks as well and ready to go. Today for you, I've brought it's a throwback song. I'm not going to be too sad if you've heard of it before, but I'm sure you know the band, the Rolling Stones.
I do know the Rolling Stones.
And I've actually found out that this song is a little more popular than I realized, but it's "She's a Rainbow."
I don't know this song.
Wonderful. I'll give it its credits for why it's actually no, I won't do that. I'll do that later. I was gonna say I'll say I found out a few instances of where it's been played in the last few years, and then as far back as 20 some years ago. But we can do that later on. I don't want to do too much introducing or creditations to the song yet. I would rather have it be a full listen before we do that, just because there's a little bit. Actually, no, I'm gonna put a cork in it right there. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and bait that cliffhanger for you, and instead of doing anything else, I want to go ahead and say that this song came off of their 1967 album, Their Satanic Majesty's Request. And I will also say that it reached number 25 on the US charts when it was a single. But other than
Okay.
that, I want to leave the rest of it to the post show or the post listen. Actually, that's my idea. I will give the creditations that I was going to say where you might have heard it recently, as you have the chance to gather your thoughts after the song's over. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, cool. Well, then, if you're ready to go and everybody else is ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. And once again, this is She's a Rainbow by the Rolling Stones.
You seen her dressed in blue? See the sky in front of you, and her face is like a sail, speaking white so fair and pale. Have you seen a lady fair? She comes in colors everywhere. She combs her hair. She's like a rainbow. Coming colors in the air. Everywhere. She comes in colors. Have you seen her all in gold? Like the fleeting days of old. She shoots colors all around, like the sunset going down. Have you seen the lady fair? She comes in colors everywhere. She combs her hair. She's like a rainbow. Coming colors in the air. Everywhere. She comes in She's like a
Okay, and that was She's a Rainbow by the Rolling Stones. Some places that you might have heard that recently while you get your thoughts together, Scoobs. Maybe not this one as much, but the first song, or the first commercial that it was used in was actually in 1999 by iMac when they first came out with those very colorful computers that they had. Very
Okay.
apt. But then more recently, it got played. There's three different credits from 2018. It was in an Acura commercial for a car.
Okay.
It was in a Dior commercial with I can't remember who it was. There was an actress. I'm spacing on her name right now. And it was also on an episode of American Horror Story Coven. Then in 2020, it was in a Photoshop commercial. And then 2021, it was on a Ted Lasso episode.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's where it's been in terms of other than the radio. But yeah, so since you've never heard the song before, what were your first thoughts?
So I am not super well versed in the Rolling Stones as a whole. I
Okay.
know that you're a big fan of them because of, I think you said your dad, right?
Yep.
My dad actually is a pretty big fan of the Stones, but it's they're not really a band that we listen to together.
Hmm.
Honestly, like it was more the big one for me and my dad was Carlos Santana.
That's awesome.
Um, but so for the Stones, like this is further back than I think I've ever listened to them before in terms of their discography. 67, like yeah, I don't think I've listened to their super early work like this before, and it feels very 60s.
Yeah.
Like it's got that super psychedelic, whimsical feel to it, which it's interesting to me that you mentioned that it was in American Horror Story. I haven't watched American Horror Story, despite it being something I think I would enjoy. For some odd reason to me, music from this era always seemed to have, even though it's supposed to be totally happy, whimsical, colorful, and all that, it always seemed to have like a slight sinister edge to it. That might just be my latent paranoia, but like I kind of got that vibe from this song too, where I was like, it sounds like a happy idyllic song, but if they put this over like a horror scene somewhere, I could see it fitting perfectly. And then you mentioned that, and I was like, yep, okay, yeah, I could see that. Very Midsommar type feel to it, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I could definitely agree with that, and 100%, yeah, on that. With like that, it's almost they've said I can't remember the actual phrase that's used before, but it's like it's so sweet that it hurts, right? Like it has like that nice like the sound of it, and it has that like that whimsy to it, but that whimsy to it is almost on the verge of spooky and scary because one of the songs that I think is the most outplaced songs ever, and it was used in a horror movie. Like I've gone to horror movies in like most of my life, even like into mid 20s. Like I'd get terrified of them. I'm not the guy that like walks in there and pretends to be like, oh. I'd be like, I'm hiding, I'm covering my face sometimes. Still, I don't care. I'm not afraid to admit it. It's a dark ass theater and there's loud noises and scary images. I'm scared. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was they used a song by Tiny Tim in in oh what was the movie? Oh, I'm blanking on the name of the movie now. But like they revealed this demon that's been plaguing this family this whole time, and he's just like getting ready in the mirror to Tiny Tim, and like I just blurted out laughing in the middle of the movie theater while everyone's like, ah, like getting freaked out and on edge and stuff. But like because of my exposure to Tiny Tim prior to this, I'm like, really?
Yeah. It
And I,
didn't stick the landing for you like it did for everyone else.
right. And for those of you that aren't familiar with who Tiny Tim is, but he's sang primarily in a falsetto and played on what did he play? The fiddle or not the fiddle? It was an instrument that had a ukulele. That's what it was.
Oh,
Like
okay.
yeah, like it was just like every part of what he was doing did not seem to fit the register of what was going on. And the song was "Tiptoe Through the Tulips." For those of you
Right.
that want to go ahead and look that song up too, it's a good song on its own. It's got a little strange feel to it, but you can hear why it could have been used in that instance. But then again, for those of you that have experience with it before and have had a good time, like laughing and talking about the musical stylings of them, it's hard to take it seriously in a very serious moment.
Right.
Did you have more to go on there?
I just think it's interesting too how going back this far, and I'm not picking on the Rolling Stones for this. This is true of music in from earlier eras, just as a whole. The lyrics seem so simplistic
Mm-hmm.
compared to lyricism today. And I'm
Absolutely.
not saying that it's not deep or anything like that, but I feel like a lot of the times, at least, and this is still true today, what becomes popular, it's stuff that's kind of like it's an earworm. Not really saying anything too deep or anything too crazy, but it's just little phrases that latch onto your brain and you find yourself humming later on. This is a prime example of that, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was about to say that it is a good example of it, and I think maybe it was a little bit on my mind when I picked it too. But as of our recording, the last episode was Vapin' in Vegas, and it had that same earworm kind of tendency where even though it's a comedy song, well, comedy in the sense of the lyrics, nothing else other than that, because like they're just witty lines that you can put in there. But in terms of like the music styling, it's very well done and very serious for anyone that might have missed that by chance. But anyway, I digress. It has that earworm tendency where even though that song was considered comedic to some extent, the Vapin' in Vegas hook was still stuck in my head like I said it would be for a few days prior or yeah, afterward. So like yeah, it kind of has that like it sticks in your head and you want to hear it again to the point where you're putting the money in a jukebox to get it out of your head. Like
Yeah.
that was the idea back then, I would say, and I think it hit the nail on the head with that. One or two things I want to talk about real quick. There are probably some songs that you might be familiar with, like Paint It Black
Uh huh.
or
Yep.
Time Is on My Side.
Yep.
Some of those came out before this did as well, but I could. You were just mentioning that you weren't really too sure of what might have come
They came
before this,
out
but
before this. That
yeah,
surprises me,
yeah,
actually.
yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned that too. And the big thing is that this album as a whole is very, very different from anything else the Rolling Stones did. Maybe not, but like this is one of the more psychedelic rock albums that they put out, which you called out early on, which is great because it hit the nail on the head. But this was very much different in terms of what they put out prior to this, and they actually did this on purpose. They were not really happy with their manager producer. I will say they hated him, but they were very much like they wanted him gone, and they didn't because he didn't like the sound that they were going with, which was that trippy rock, psychedelic rock kind of a sound. So they wanted to do everything they could to piss him off, and they did this album self-produced because of it. So there was nobody there to kind of tell them don't do this or don't do that. They just kind of went off and did their own thing, and I think that's really awesome because like we wouldn't have gotten this sound any other time, any other way if it didn't happen the way that it did. Because like like Brown Sugar, which came out much later, and everyone knows about like Jumpin' Jack Flash, which came out the year after this, Beast of Burden, which came out in the late '70s. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. Like those sound like that more rock sound, like that's been them for almost ever. But like when they did this, it was just kind of like a it wasn't really well received at the time, but this was one of the albums that like was looked on later and was like, oh, you know what, this is actually really good for what it was, but it was like a complete one-off at this point.
Yeah. Like a 180, like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
exactly. And they even like there's even some notes saying like they didn't think that this album was even gonna become a thing that ever even happened because in '67 and at three separate times, and I think in this order, but Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Brian Jones each individually got arrested for drug busts. And that was during the time when like they weren't doing just marijuana.
Right.
We all make the jokes about like we don't know how they're still alive and they've been doing it for years and years and years, but we know they've been doing all the crazy stuff. They talk about the crazy stuff that they did themselves. There's tons of interviews and tons of places where you can hear it, see it, and speculate what they did or didn't. But they were not getting busted for light-hearted, easy to try to fight your way out of possession charges, just to put it lightly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I wonder if that had something to do with it too, where like different people were going through different things at different periods. So like while Mick was out, Keith stepped up and did some more stuff and did some more writing and some more voicing on things and more stuff like that. And then when Keith was gone, like Mick Jagger had to do some more stuff here and there. Kind of curious, like what influence them not being able to be there for the whole thing might have had on the way that this played out too. Like,
Yeah, because, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm not super well versed in the Rolling Stones, but they've kind of always been very solid with their sound, and like they've been around since the '60s.
yeah,
They have been pretty much the quintessential like rock and roll band
hmm
where there was no super variation. Like this is possibly the only thing I could think of. I also remember it had to be maybe like the mid 90s or the maybe the late 90s. Somewhere in the 90s, I remember the song Anybody Seen My Baby.
hmm
And even that, it was like a tip of the hat towards like maybe the alt rock movement of the 90s, but it was still, you're like, yeah, that's the Rolling Stones. You know
right.
what I mean?
No, I agree absolutely, and you were right. It was '97, so late '90s.
Okay.
I quickly looked it up while you were talking there, but it came off of Bridges to Babylon.
Which, I mean, again, 30 plus years into their career,
hmm
that was a, if I can remember it, when I wasn't really listening to music very much at that age,
Right,
it must have been a pretty popular song
right.
that far into their career when they were probably what, like 50, 40 50 years old.
Yeah, because I want to say they're easily in their 70s now.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are dead. No offense to, I
Yeah,
believe it was the drummer
I believe.
that passed away.
I believe
You
so.
know, you'll always see the memes about how Keith Richards is going to outlive the heat death of the universe or whatever. So
Honestly, though, like the fact that him and or Mick and Keith are both still alive is just absolutely mind blowing. I actually realized during that quick discussion there that I didn't give proper credits to everybody. That was because I didn't want to give you any kind of notion as to who was going to be playing in this. So the original was Mick Jagger, lead vocals, harmony vocals. They actually the whole band minus Brian Jones, I believe it said, did backup vocals for this. I don't know why them specifically didn't, but so Mick Jagger was lead vocals, tambourine, harmony vocals as well. Keith did the acoustic guitar and lead guitar. Brian Jones played the mellotron. Uh, Bill Wyman was on bass. Charlie Watts was on drums. And then for this song, Nicky Hopkins played the celesta and the harpsichord. And they actually went through two different pianists depending on the sound that they were playing. But Nicky Hopkins actually worked for with both the Rolling Stones and the Beatles for different kinds of like when they were putting like the tracks on. I guess maybe they worked at the studio, so it was like the same studio recorder or same studio
mhm.
player rather. But the one thing that I wanted to say before I opened the floor to you to discuss more was that the string arrangement that we heard today was written by none other than John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin.
Okay,
And it was
interesting.
before um, he was a part of Led Zeppelin. He was a session musician, and that's when he did the work for them there, which is crazy to think.
Yeah,
Especially because of like, I mean, I don't want to speak too much on it because I do want to give you the opportunity to talk about what they did too. But like, as you mentioned before, the Rolling Stones don't put a lot of strings into their music, but they when they do, it's usually done really well. And I'm kind of curious if he had any influence on the other songs too, because there's another one where there's like that really deep cello and you can just hear it right from the start. Like it's beautifully done. Like the same thing is in this one where the cello is really strong and present up front, but like you can hear it, you can feel it, and like the whole song was about talking about like how beautiful this person was, whether they're real or not, and that it was like, excuse me, giving them like the ability to see colors around them. Like that's they're so beautiful they radiate it, and
yes,
you can feel that in the song with the way that the chords were written or like the string section was written. And I just think it was like it was very impressive, right?
yes. I was drinking. My
No,
apologies.
it's like oh no, he died. I didn't know if you had anything else to say about that or not. John Paul Jones.
I mean, I think that's I do think that's interesting because I feel like John Paul Jones is like the unsung hero of Led Zeppelin. I feel like a lot of bands sort of have that thing where like a bunch of the band members are super popular and then it's just like, and that guy. Like John Paul Jones is like the that guy of Led Zeppelin. Just like Alex Lifeson is the that guy of Rush. Everyone's like Neil Peart, Geddy Lee, and that guy. And the guitar player for the Police, I can't remember his name even. It's like you got Sting, and you got Stuart Copeland, and you got that guy, and he's a great guitar player.
Right.
But I can't remember his name right now. And I feel bad because, like, I love the Police. They're one of my favorite bands, and I can't remember the dude's name.
That's funny. No, I'm bad at just remembering that people's names in general. So to remember band members' names on top of that, it's like I feel like I had to like study for a test to be able to pull them off. Like every now and again, like there's the ones that I'm a really big fan of, and I'll know who they are. Like I've said before, I'm a pretty big Bayside fanboy, so I remember Anthony Ranieri, and then obviously like super people, not that super groups that exist for a long time, like the Beatles, like
Right,
John
yeah.
Paul, Ringo, and George.
And there you okay.
You say John Paul, George, and that other guy.
I was gonna say, are you gonna that other guy George?
I can't do that to
That
George, but
guy.
I can do it to Ringo, even though I already said his name. I'll go back
Yeah.
and edit it out. I almost did it. But then the same thing too, like you said, like the Rolling Stones, like for me it's Keith and Mick and those other guys.
And those other guys, honestly, yeah, I think one of them's named Charlie. I think you said their
Yep.
band names, and like I think you said their names, and I'm still just like,
Yep, that one, him.
those guys.
He's a part of it. Good for them.
Yeah. And I feel like that's, I mean, on one hand, is everyone going to know the name of every
No.
band member? No. I think it's part of my ADHD where that's the sort of thing I fixate on, where I want to know all the members of bands I really like. And that's kind of been an argument among bands, quote unquote bands, throughout history, but like, think of a super popular band, or they were super popular. Take like Maroon 5. Everyone knows Adam Levine. Who are the other guys?
I don't know. I don't know anybody else in the band.
Or even like Paramore. It's like everyone knows Haley.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there were two brothers in the band. One of them ended up leaving. The Farrow brothers. Actually, I do remember Zach Farrow and his brother. But like, it's that sort of thing where it's like, if you have a band, but the only person that anyone really cares about is the lead singer, how important is the rest of the band?
Yeah.
And, one would think that, were the rest of the band to disappear, the lead singer wouldn't be as popular or successful because the band is the one writing the music. Hard to say. I think it's situational, obviously.
Yeah, it's definitely situational because I mean, as mentioned earlier, like look at the Beatles. There's I don't know how many different instances I can tell you where I thought Paul McCartney's solo work were parts of the Beatles catalog because of how much Paul McCartney's solo work sounds like Beatles.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, and that just goes to show, like, they've talked about it before, and I feel like everyone listening to this at least would know that and I think I even said it at one point before too, when I was mentioning how different people did different parts of the band, blah, 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 but like, if John wrote the song, he sang it. If Paul wrote the song, he sang it. They didn't,
Right.
you know what I mean? So I'm sure like that was part of it too, but like just to show like how strong that proved in that, like we don't know, and we just said it before jokingly, but like we'll never know for sure because Keith and Nick are gonna live forever.
Yeah.
They're
Sure
still gonna
feels
keep
like
going
it.
on concert. They're still gonna keep playing music. They're still gonna keep doing that. They'll be fine. But yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like we might never know what their solo work would sound like because they're both gonna be alive forever and they're still both gonna keep playing the same stuff and it's still gonna have that same feel. I agree with you when it comes to that kind of a situation where if there were just that one person in the front and they are doing all the writing themselves and everyone else is just kind of there, then yeah, I mean, who cares at that point?
And I think it's,
Who was the
It's
person that we brought recently? It might have been 2 episodes ago or something, where it was they wrote all the parts of it, and then he brought other people into the band later. I can't remember now.
I think it's different if, say, like the lead singer does go on to do their solo stuff, but it has a completely different sound from what they did with their band. I find that to be, I don't know if I want to say like more acceptable, because who am I to say what's acceptable or not? But take like a No Doubt and Gwen Stefani. Like Gwen Stefani's solo work is totally different from anything she does with No Doubt, and that sort of thing to me is, again, in my mind, more quote unquote acceptable. Same with Hayley Williams. When she did do her own solo work, it was very different from anything she had ever done with Paramore. So to me, that's kind of like, oh, well, they just want to do something different that doesn't really fit the sound of their band, and they don't want it linked to the band. And I think that is. I keep saying the word acceptable. That's not quite what I mean. But I like that they want to have their solo stuff separate from the band sound, if the sound is very different.
Yeah. No, I can agree with what you're saying. I definitely hear what you're trying to get at too with like when you're saying acceptable. Like, I know what you mean. I know you're not trying to use it in the sense of like it's okay to do it, just in the sense of like you're not using the band as a springboard and then cutting them out to just make more money on your own. You want to do something
Yes.
completely different. It doesn't necessarily have to be with or without them, but you want to do this thing. And you want to try to make this sound. And if someone in that band can do it with you, you're for sure going to bring it with them. Because we've seen that before, where a band breaks off with 2 members and does their own thing, and then comes back later with the other band and does something completely different.
Are you perhaps talking about Blink-182?
Maybe.
Because, boy, did I have that thought the other day when I was listening to Boxcar Racer, and then a song comes on that's Boxcar Racer featuring Mark Hoppus, and I'm just like, guys.
You mean Blink-182?
Yeah, like Blink-182 with like 2 extra musicians.
Blink-182 with extra steps.
Yeah.
But yes, I absolutely was thinking of Boxcar Racer and
Yeah.
Blink-182. Exactly that. Yes. That's funny that you you read my mind on there. But yeah, it's a prime example of the same thing.
Yeah.
I think you said it, but Gwen Stefani and No Doubt, right? That was such a huge change. Like, we're talking like huge hard left, right? Like, we had very ska punk, No Doubt, go to a very pop, maybe punk leaning, but very pop sound, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was something I want to talk about on another time, and so I'm not going to go much further than that, but I just thought it was, I wanted to say, like, I wonder if that was more of like a marketability sense that Gwen Stefani went that route in that instance, because like I wonder if she had the foresight to be like, this ska thing is going to be popular for a few more years, but I want to be able to last longer. And like, they had the opportunity and met Pharrell, and Pharrell was like, yo, I got all this stuff that I can do, and Gwen Stefani was like, oh shit, I want to go do that.
I mean, it's possible, because, like, not to be cynical, but attractive woman, and then just, like, 3 dudes who are in a band with her,
Right.
you know, who's society really going to hone in on?
Right. No, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. And I mean, talking about the cynical side of that to tie us back into the song, this song by the Rolling Stones is one of the few where they're talking about a woman, and they're talking about her in like extreme positivity and like just like sheer, like, sure, there might be some sexual tones in there here and there because they've always been kind of known for that, but
I really don't even think there is, though. Honestly.
there was
Like-
one I saw that they said it's a reach where when it's saying like she comes in colors.
Okay. I wouldn't have thought that, but I understand
Exactly.
what you mean. You know.
Right, and that's just it. Like, it's a reach. It's one of the biggest reaches, because if you still want to tie it into the Rolling Stones to say that they have this like overarching, just like whatever. You can say that that's like the one like uh, toilet humor of the entire
Yeah.
part of the entire thing, where it's kind of just like dirty talk. Because, I mean, a lot of the other songs that they sing, I can't even. I'm brain farting right now. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this. But anyway, a lot of the other songs they talk about are very sexual in nature, and they're very
Right.
just like, you know, about the desires of being in that instance, because rock and roll is about sex and drugs and partying. You know,
Yeah.
that same like genre and mindset that we were talking about that was popular in some of the rap groups and the rap time frames, where it was talking about who you're with and what you're doing and how you have that flashy lifestyle. Well, this is the same thing, and that's the same reason why way back when your grandparents were saying that Elvis is the devil, because he was singing rock and roll music and grinding his hips.
Yeah.
And it's the same reason. There he's talking about a different life of partying and being unjust and unholy and impure, and that's not something that they're used to. So to go back to this song though, where we were saying how they kind of had that, they don't have this crudeness to it. Like they talk about the beauty of her and the colors that they're talking about, which comes out in the parts that were written so beautifully before that we mentioned, with the string section, where it's just kind of like, that's another reason why it was so like one off for them, and maybe it didn't get the reception that it should have got when it first came out, was because their main fan base was used to hearing like a different sound of rock from them, and this was more on the vein of Beatles than anything else that they've done before. And like, if we want the Beatles, we'll listen to the Beatles, right?
Yeah. It was a lot. I mean, it's a lot more like, I used the word whimsical earlier, but also just like innocent.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there really is not any of that like sort of raunchy like she's so hot, she's so sexy. Like it's the language is very. I would even go so far as to say flowery, where
Yeah.
it's a lot more poetic
Absolutely.
than what I think people probably expected out of the Rolling Stones.
Well, yeah, I mean, the one of the biggest lines that they pull out of it, and like you just said, where it seems very flowery, like he compares her to a queen, just like draped in the finest colors, you know, like a queen in Day of Gold, like when they're wearing like those red robes and they're all the jewels and all that stuff, like one of those kind of paintings that were depicted. And then he says that she's like a sunset going down when you see like all those pretty colors. And have you seen a lady fair? Like that's like some of the nicest ways to describe somebody in the world. It's
Yeah.
very, very poetic, like almost coyingly sick at how beautiful it is. And especially from a
Yeah.
band that's like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, baby, yeah.
Yeah.
They're all like, oh my god, gross, ew, I don't want to listen to this. Like, yeah, it would be like the equivalent of you're thinking that you're putting on a Rolling Stones album, but it's actually Boy George, the the
Yeah.
original Rick Roll. They just
Yeah.
swapped it out on you real quick. You're like, what the fuck?
What am I? I imagine like listening to this in comparison, like putting it on, people were probably like, "This is the Rolling Stones."
Well,
Like-
yeah, like I just said, like the year prior, Painted Black came out.
Yeah. See that's why when you mentioned that, I was like, "This came out after that."
Yeah,
I really would have thought it would be the other way around, where in the case of the Beatles, how they started off, they were like, prim and proper British lads,
right.
and twist and shout,
Mm-hmm.
all my lovin', just very very innocent, honestly.
Right.
And then later on, when they started getting into the Devil's Lettuce and everything else, is when they started experimenting more and having that sort of darker sound to them and the more experimental things. Whereas this feels like the polar opposite to that.
Right.
It's like, did they stop doing drugs? Are they clean now? Obviously, that is not the case, but
I mean, hey, they were all going through a whole bunch of different drug busts, so maybe they were clean. So maybe they were actually
not by choice.
right. There it is. We figured it out, guys. You're welcome. And more on Deep Dives by The Feedback coming up next. But yeah, no, I agree. Like it seems so crazy to think like, and I mean, saying Painted Black, you knew what it was. I'm assuming everybody else knows what it is too. But I mean, if you can't tell by the title, it's literally about saying I hate brightness and colors and change. I want everything to be black because that's rock and roll. Like that's the other side of it too, right? He wants black everything, black leather, black this, right? And then to sing a song about a rainbow and a woman emitting that like the next year? What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. That was just one of those things where it like you said and like it can be talked about before and it will be again. It's a hard left and it just doesn't make sense, but it's also beautiful. And it should be appreciated for what it is because of that. Um,
Can I make a modern day comparison?
do it, do it. What do you got?
Okay, it was like going from Panic at the Disco's A Fever You Can't Sweat Out to Panic at the Disco's Pretty Odd.
Yes, that's actually great. And again, same thing. Very great records on their own, but yeah, if you weren't ready
And-
for it,
Yeah, and then we can also tie that into what I was talking about earlier, how Panic at the Disco at the end just became Brendan Urie, and what happened to the rest of the people?
Exactly.
They were gone.
they actually were. It was just him at one point, right? Or at the
Yeah.
end there, yeah. Oh, by the way, I went back and looked at my notes. Tom Mish, when we did the Tiny Desk.
Oh, okay. Yes, okay, yeah.
And
do
I don't know if
remember
this
that.
will, that might be the first mention, or maybe it's not the first mention of the longer episodes, but maybe not. Who knows? Maybe people know about them by now.
Who
maybe
knows?
not.
It's a mystery.
I can't see that far into the future, man. I only got 20/20 vision. But
That joke doesn't work anymore.
well, I can't see into the future because it was in the past.
Oh, man.
All those dad jokes aside, I want to say that there's a little bit of some heat maybe from other bands at the time of this album coming out, or especially this song. Well, this song and this album. So first, this song, there's actually another band by the name of Love, and they have an album that came out in the same year, I believe. And one of the songs was called "She Comes in Colors." Now, I listened to the song, and it doesn't share any of their lyrics, and it doesn't sound the same, other than it's like that, psych rock kind of stuff that's going on then. That it has that sound to it because that was what was coming out at that time. So it makes sense, but like the only thing that it shares is that line. So the fact
Okay.
that anybody was like even the band members were trying to accuse them of being like, doesn't Mick care? Doesn't he think we're gonna try to sue him for stealing it? But like it's one line. You can't
Right.
really say that he stole the whole song from you because he wrote "She Comes in Colors" as a part of their chorus. Like, come on now. Anyway, but we talked about them before, and I'm glad that they made their way into the episode organically prior because I'm sure it came out at the same time as it should have. So, the Beatles. But John Lennon accused them of copying them, being the Rolling Stones, of copying the Beatles, and was quoted as saying, "Every fucking thing we did, Mick does the exact same. He imitates us." Yeah. So what's funny is that Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, that came out 6 months prior to this not episode. I'm sorry, 6 months prior to the Rolling Stones' "She's a Rainbow" coming out with I'm forgetting their Satanic Majesty's Request. So they're saying like even in the sense of like it's a long-winded like weird name that has to do with whatever, right? Majesty's requests to the Queen, the devil's requests from the Queen because it's diluted or whatever. Then they're making a ploy at the army with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, right? And then
Right.
even if you looked at the album, which are you familiar with?
Oh, you mean the album art?
Yes, the album art. Sorry, the album
Yeah.
art for Sgt.
Yeah.
Pepper. I'm gonna
Yeah.
send you the right now. This is the album art. Oh,
I mean, like there always has been like this sort of, for some people, playful, and for some people not as playful debate, like Stones versus Beatles. Which do you prefer?
Right.
I know that I don't. To some people, it was actually very important because of this sort of mindset. Probably that was propagated by John Lennon, for example, being like they just copy us. And like
Right.
I can see the similarities. 6
Right.
months though, like in terms of production,
Right.
that's not like,
And
especially
in the
back then,
60s.
probably. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I would agree exactly what you just said. For them to say that they were doing it and mimicking them at 6 months post release, like that's tough.
Like just being like, okay, quick, we got 6 months to do this. Jump on it, and like
Right. Even
the
if they
way,
waited until the album came
yeah,
out, like it would have taken more than 6 months, I think, for them
yeah,
to have gotten what they needed, get it fixed and done, get it actually printed. Unless, I don't know, you could say they had everything else ready to go and all they had to do was make the album cover. Because again, like, I don't know. I don't know how things were
yeah,
printed then. I can't say for then. I know how things are printed, not now, but maybe in like 10 years ago. I knew how things were printed and done in that sense because I have a background with that kind of stuff. But like it would be done on like a long continuous run and then die cut, right? That would get done now. I'm assuming it'd be somewhat similar to then because like I don't think technology has changed in that sense. I think it's just gotten like better at reducing waste. So yeah,
right,
but to make thousands of albums that then would have to get shipped out internationally because it wasn't like now where you can send the digital files on an
yeah,
email on the secured server and have them getting printed and made in 3 different locations at once so that you
yeah,
don't have to pay for fees to ship them from whatever recording studio to everywhere else in the world. I know that I'm assuming that that was how it was done to some extent, but I know that they would also make like master copies and then copy those copies, and that was the difference between certain albums. And I know that was
yeah,
like a big thing with copying. Like if you got them from X studio, that means it's an original, depending on what year it's from. But if you got it a stamp, which was a vinyl of of an album that was made in America by the Beatles, then it definitely wasn't an original recording from this
oh,
year to
yeah,
this
no
year,
way,
because it was just like a reproduction of an album that they got from them that they then copied to produce, right? Like,
yeah,
so yeah, like that just wouldn't it wouldn't have happened. Is my long-winded way of saying that, and backing up what you were saying too is like it just would not have happened. There's no way.
no, no,
So yeah, I agree with exactly what you said. Like there's always going to be that conversation of who's copying who and they're doing what we're doing to be relevant or whatever because they're two main groups coming out at the same time frame from the same location. I know I'm
yes,
generalizing here, but bear with me here for the sake of comparisons and what the conversation is. You can see why there'd be this like this tension and this greed and this not this greed. I'm sorry, this tension and this feuding is what I should have said.
yes,
Um, and I know it's not comparative, really, but it's almost similar to like what's going on with Kendrick Lamar and Drake as of like last year with the little bits of feuding here and there and the rap battles and all that stuff, right? Like they have a
yeah. I
but
don't think that the Stones and the Beatles were taking like overt shots at each other, though.
no. I'm just saying like that was their way of doing it was they're releasing albums and having interviews and being like, no, this is bullshit,
Yeah,
versus literally calling each other out and releasing songs daily.
yes,
And then again, to prove our point from earlier, daily versus
yeah,
the amount of time that would have taken to produce and release full albums, not just a single song when you have the money and the software and the digital presence to do so.
right, exactly.
Yeah, that's it's funny to think, but I thought it was a fun little thing that they was actually quoted that he was that pissed off about it. So I wanted to make sure we had a good a good laugh about it too.
Yeah, that was probably like I mean, I can't say for sure, but like the one of the first really prominent like musical rivalries.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some problems earlier on too with Elvis and things that he was doing with people. I know Johnny Cash did not
Yeah,
like him at all.
yeah, that's not a surprise.
Yeah, really. I think that's all I had for today. What about you?
I just want to give you a little bit of props. This is definitely the oldest track we have done thus far on the
Ooh,
podcast.
hell
I don't know
yeah.
if we'll really go back much further than that. Honestly, like for me, I am much more contemporary in my music taste. Like the furthest back I go is probably 70s, 80s, if that. So I think if anyone is going to be bringing an earlier track, it'll be you. But let's see what the future holds.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not entirely sure all of the year frames that Yacht Rock entails, but I have disclosed my joys for that, so I definitely will be bringing some Yacht Rock to the future. In the future, not to the future like the movie. Back to the Future. Um, Please don't sue us for using that title in this episode. And the only
I
way
think
that
be
we'll get
okay.
sued by that is if you do your part on the social media requests that past Steven has for you on this future episode of us.
That's right, because important, long-winded information and ADHD don't mix. But I hope if you've made it to this point, you like what Scoops and I are doing, and hopefully you like it so much you want to shout it from the top of a mountain. But it would be a whole lot more helpful if you told your friends about us instead. Word of mouth or listening with someone is our favorite, but social media is also great, and you can interact with us there too. So please come by our Instagram, Blue Sky, or Facebook, where you can find us as The Feedback, or on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter /X, at @thefeedback_PC to see what's coming next, suggest a song, talk about our latest episode, or just talk about anything.
There's a lot of past future discussion going on, and I'm getting confused with all the temporal possibilities of life and time.
We need
But
some
what I can do,
gigawatts.
yeah, what I can do is give a shout out to the artist that has created our intro and outro music. It is not personal to us, though that would be super dope, maybe one day in the future. I would like to give a shout out to the artist Exile for the use of their song Egg, which I use for the introduction and outroduction. If there's an introduction, there's got to be an outroduction, right? Everyone just calls it an outro. The
Yes.
intro and outro of our podcast, the song Egg. Go check it out. Check out some of his other music. It's good stuff. And I think that's going to do it for us. Is that right?
Yeah, I would agree. That's it for today. Go listen to the Rolling Stones.
I should. Anyways, thanks for listening, everyone. And join us next time for whatever we dig up next. Goodbye.
Whenever I have corn, I'm always reminded too of that one little kid that went viral.
That loves corn.
Yeah. It's got the juice. It's got the knobs with the juice. I love corn. So good. But I feel that way too, because like I genuinely do love corn in that same level, in that same vein. But like that corn that he's talking about, it's like that really good, like small farm, local farm that doesn't sell their product to anybody else except for the farm stand kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, you just the stuff you pick up on the side of the road.
Yeah, like it's the greatest. Thankfully, there's a farm stand like 15 minutes from my house, and I went there, and they have literally some of the best corn I've ever had, where it's just always so perfectly, just like it's sweet and juicy. You don't even have to put butter or salt on it. You can just warm it up and eat it. Done. Like nothing else needed.
I have often thought about just going and getting like 2 or 3 elotes and just eating that for dinner too.
Now you're talking my language.
Just feel like, you know what? I'm just gonna eat corn for dinner. That's
Honestly,
it.
though?
Corn.
You could do that. Go for it, man.
I'm an adult. I can eat whatever the hell I want for dinner.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Nope. Just pounding that hiney.
Hey now. Hey now.